right, it's now time for our Guest of the Week portion of the Diamond Hands podcast. And joining us this week is the CEO of Gage Growth Cannabis, Fabian Monaco. Fabian, how are things?
Good. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Pretty quiet week for you, huh?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So this week you announced TerrAscend is purchasing Gage Growth in an all-stock deal valued at $545 million. So first question, why did this make sense to do this acquisition now, knowing the current state of the U.S. cannabis landscape?
Look, I think the U.S. cannabis landscape's here to stay. We've obviously had a little bit of a tough time from a capital market standpoint more recently, but every single state that we look at, consumption is increasing. The numbers are going up. TerrAscend, if we take a look at their portfolio, 3 out of the top 5 states in our eyes over the next couple of years they're already in, and that's Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey. If it was, a scenario where Gage would go to another state next, those would be 3 out of the 5 that we would actually choose, the other being Illinois and Massachusetts. So already, a phenomenal footprint, phenomenal infrastructure with TerrAscend. And more importantly, just joining forces with a bigger beast. You see that the larger MSOs command a better cost of capital. They have more access to capital. They see better deals. Yeah. So just being part of that bigger beast, we truly feel we can become one of the biggest, if not the biggest, cannabis companies in the world.
That's great. Deal consisted of an 11% buyout premium. So why did this number make sense?
Yeah, so look, from a let's call it objective standpoint, maybe the premium doesn't look that fancy or that high. Generally, you look for 30 to 35% premium in a public M&A deal. For us, though, it kind of signals that we're extremely confident as to where the TerrAscend stock will be over the next little while. Phenomenal ramp up coming in New Jersey. New Jersey just went rec. We'll see that program start very, very soon. I believe the deadline is February 2022 for when that should start. Pennsylvania, a little bit of, we saw a couple issues that TerrAscend had within their cultivation, but something that's easily fixable. So we'll start to see that asset ramp up pretty aggressively. And Pennsylvania, in my humble opinion, is just the number 1 market in the country right now. And so overall, we see a lot of upside for TerrAscend in the near term. Not to mention, again, being part of a larger entity, they're switching over to U.S. GAAP. If there's the great possibility of us potentially uplisting, would have maybe taken some time for a company like Gage to go through their process and have that opportunity. With a company like TerrAscend, we could be one of the first that gets to uplist to a recognized U.S. exchange. So that's pretty important as well. So, all in all, a good de-risking event for Gage shareholders, but more importantly, tremendous amount of upside. And, the team that Gage, myself, Mike, Rami, all the founders, have locked up our shares. We're all joining TerrAscend on a full-time basis, and we're excited to take this thing to another level.
Great. Anthony, you wanted to add a few things to that?
Yeah, I guess I know that you guys have built a powerhouse with the Cookies brand in Michigan. Are there plans to bring that brand to the market such as Pennsylvania, New Jersey? Because, like you said, Pennsylvania is looking like it's going to be one of the top markets, if not the top market right now. And, being a consumer and being an investor, I've seen what Cookies can do. So, implementing that brand into those markets, I think, would bode well for TerrAscend on a go-forward basis.
No, for sure. You'll see that relationship with Cookies continue to strengthen with the TerrAscend group as well as we get to join that group. TerrAscend announced the exclusivity of the Cookies brand in New Jersey about a week before we announced our deal. Obviously, we had a little bit of a hand in that ahead of our transaction. And so for us, looking to deepen that relationship, you get to work with the Nike of the space, the Red Bull of the space. So for us, we get to learn on a consistent basis, what makes Cookies go and why it's such an influential and top-notch brand in the space today. And so, again, you'll see that relationship continue to flourish when we join forces with TerrAscend and obviously look to potentially enter into a couple more states with Cookies as well.
Yep, and I know investors were probably curious as to why TerrAscend had actually pulled guidance a couple weeks ago. I'm assuming it was in lieu of this acquisition being on the horizon.
Yeah, it was a little bit of this acquisition being on the horizon, and just a couple of small little mishaps, at the cultivation site of their Pennsylvania locations. Again, easily fixable. We're really bullish on where that's going to be in the next little while, and obviously New Jersey rec coming on a little bit later. And so, obviously that was met with a little bit of negativity, and you saw that in the downturn of the TerrAscend stock. But again, in our eyes, something that's easily recoverable. Very, very bullish on where New Jersey is going to be, especially when rec gets online. TerrAscend's been, basically banking a whack load of inventory to sell through the rec channels once that gets up and running.
Yeah,
you're going to see a big jump in TerrAscend's capabilities as we get into the new year.
Beautiful. And then I guess I got to ask, because it's on everybody's mind right now, what's your view on the regulatory framework in the U.S. moving forward? I mean, what do you see as it shaping up in the next couple, I guess, months to quarters?
I'm bullish. I'm bullish on change. You hear a lot of rumors. We saw the news with Merrill Lynch late last week about, the potential for them to start bringing, clients back, let's call it, to the cannabis space. This is really transformational. When you take a look at the custodial issues, when you take a look at the fact that we're not on a U.S. recognized exchange, when you take a look at just the cost of capital, all that will be, easily, let's call it, fixed with a little bit of regulatory change. I should say. So, we're really bullish on that change happening pretty soon. Obviously, people anticipated a little bit sooner, sometime in the kind of early 2021 for something to happen in that regard. And obviously, we saw a lot of the cannabis companies perform extremely well during that time period when there was a lot of that hype and excitement. I think that comes back very, very soon. I think there's going to be change, and that change is coming within the next 12 months.
Yeah, I'm on board with you.
The next
I'm hoping it's coming in the next 12 months. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the U.S. right now politically, so I mean, I'm hoping it comes back to the forefront of that conversation. But yeah, I'm bullish on it as well.
Yeah.
So you think change in the next 12 months? So good time to get into the industry right now, I would think.
Yeah, no, totally. Like full blown legalization, I think that will take a little bit more time. Yeah. But at least some relief on the 280E issues, uplisting, custodial issues, and things along those lines. I think it's coming. It's coming pretty fast.
I'm curious to know, like, how was this something in the works for a while, or did this move fast? Because I'm curious to see, like, this has got to be a sign of things to come, where we're going to see more mergers and acquisitions like this, I would think, over the next year. Does it not?
Yeah, no, totally. Look, we're going to be even pretty hungry as a combined entity to go out and continue to beef up, where we are in our respective markets, and more importantly, into potentially some new markets. I think it's a sign of things to come. We were working on this transaction for about 100 days before we actually signed it. So a lot of thought process and due diligence went into it, and frankly strategy as to how this combined company can really truly become the number one company in the space. And so again, really excited to be joining forces with TerrAscend, and more importantly, I think you're going to see a lot more deals start to happen in this space in the next 3, 6, 9 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So future plans moving forward. When does the deal close, and what can investors expect next? Like, will the Gage brand stay in place? Will there be a rebrand? Like, what are some of the notable things that investors should anticipate moving forward?
Yeah, so in terms of timeline, I think we guided towards first half of 2022. I think we can be, and obviously don't quote me on it, we can be a little bit more aggressive with that timeline, I think, internally. We're looking to have our shareholder meeting hopefully in the month of November. After that, pending the regulatory process is going pretty smoothly, can most likely have this thing closed up by the end of the year. Again, we guided to first half of 2022 publicly, mainly because we want to ensure that give us a little bit of buffer in case there's unforeseen circumstances that rise. In terms of the Gage brand is here to stay. I humbly like to say it's one of the best brands in the space today. We're consistently growing on multiple fronts. People have a hunger for our product. They love coming to our stores. It's exemplified by our, biggest basket size in the industry, essentially at 150 plus. And we've been hitting that now for, 18, 20 months plus. So this is not just something that happened yesterday, or it's been happening for a couple months. This has been happening with some consistency, which is indicative of, the quality of the brand that we have. So the brand is going to be here to stay. You're going to see it basically play a pretty prominent role in the combined company as well. For us, we really want to get Gage into Pennsylvania, into New Jersey, into California, into Maryland, and obviously start to broaden the brand in Canada as well.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, listen, I appreciate you checking in with us here at the podcast for our guest of the week. But congrats on the news this week. Let's keep in touch. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it, and obviously, thanks a lot for following the story.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Take care. Good stuff.
Have a great day.